cold front is sweeping across the plains. That's the focus for severe weather over the next couple of days, and things are still pretty active in the tropical Atlantic, but maybe quiet for U.S. landfall areas for now. So we do have a classic cool front sweeping across the plains. Not something we've seen much of this summer, actually, with all the heat that has been across the central U.S. But you can see the wind shift here across Nebraska, Kansas, up through the Dakotas, and ahead of it, some humid, hot air. This will be the end of the heat wave for the upper Midwest and the western part of the plains. We've got two areas of a slight risk of severe storms, level 2 out of 5 today across Minnesota, Wisconsin, and also Missouri. And then the focus for severe weather will continue along that cool front tomorrow, but less of a risk here, marginal risk, as we head towards Indiana, Michigan, and then down into parts of northern Mississippi. But dew points really increasing ahead of that front. It's been a dry heat for the northern end of the heat wave across portions of Minnesota here over the last couple days, but that changes today as dew points are pooling from the Gulf of Mexico out ahead of that front. We're going to see a more widespread area of humid air. So storms pop up here basically in a broken line from Minnesota down into Missouri, maybe as far south as Oklahoma and parts of northern Arkansas. And those storms mainly are going to be a wind and large hail threat, not so much a tornado threat today. So we'll take a look at the Minnesota risk here from the Twin Cities up through Duluth and the North Shore areas into northwestern Wisconsin. Plenty of energy, something we haven't seen the last couple of days, even though it's been hot because we haven't had those high dew points. Today, though, dew points could get close to 70 by the late afternoon, evening hours, combined with temperatures in the low 90s, and cooling things off aloft will create some instability. We also have some shear, overall deep levels of the atmosphere as we see the jet stream move overhead. But we're going to be looking at a little bit of a problem here as far as trying to get tornadoes to develop. So we've got the deep shear from 0 to 6 kilometers up, surface to 6 kilometers up. But when we look at the low levels of the atmosphere, where you really need the shear to develop potential tornadoes, it's all east and west of the front and pretty quiet right near the front. So not enough low-level shear probably to produce tornadoes. But we are looking at some high wind gusts, some of those downburst winds. Storms initially fire in the evening for northern Minnesota and then should extend down to the south, though there is a question. Storm Prediction Center has kind of trimmed the southern end of this Minnesota risk because there may not be quite enough instability to overcome some of the convective inhibition as we head in the late afternoon. So a better chance maybe of stronger storms might be actually for northern Minnesota. The NAM does produce some wind gusts further south. Our HRRR model keeps it pretty far north across northeastern Minnesota. And it looks like a better threat of some of those high wind gusts here across Missouri. This is also northeastern Oklahoma. We have some scattered severe wind gusts, but none of these are going to be major outbreaks today. But wind, large hail, definitely the possible threats in those two areas. As far as the tropics go, we have a tropical storm in the eastern Pacific, expected to become a major hurricane, but largely staying out to sea here over the next several days. The Atlantic, of course, in the peak of its season right now, very hot waters in the Atlantic and the Gulf of Mexico. And we're watching two main areas, the Hurricane Center, both pretty far out right now, so anything near the U.S. coastline is pretty safe for the coming several days, but we might have to watch one or two of these. A lot can happen over several days. This is just the European model for an example, and that farther west area that we're watching does develop into potentially a pretty strong system here, but maybe it stays out to sea. It'll all depend on the Bermuda High, among many other things, as far as where it goes over the next several days. So activity in the tropics, and we've got some, what's become rare this summer, severe weather in the plains as well.